Think the greatest NBA players were all drafted first overall? Think again. Some of the biggest legends in basketball weren't even close to being top picks, and their stories might shock you. The players on this list had to fight for everything, proving doubters wrong at every step. Their draft stories are filled with doubts, drama, and plenty of what were they thinking moments. And trust me, this list will change how you think about the draft forever. Kicking off our list at number 10 is a player who may not have started with much hype, but by the time he hung up his sneakers, he had built a Hall of Fame career. We're talking about none other than Tony Parker. Now, Parker's journey to NBA greatness didn't exactly start with fireworks. Back in 2001, the San Antonio Spurs took a chance on him with the 28th pick in the draft. At just 19 years old, this skinny kid from France wasn't exactly seen as a future star. Scouts questioned if he could handle the speed and physicality of the NBA. Even Greg Popovich, one of the greatest coaches of all time, wasn't convinced at first. In fact, during Parker's rookie season, Pop nearly gave up on him. He wasn't impressed with Parker's defense or ability to run the offense. And if you know anything about Pop, you know he doesn't hand out second chances easily. But here's the thing about Tony Parker. He was relentless. By his second season, Parker proved he wasn't just there to fill a roster spot. His quickness, ability to finish at the rim, and clutch decision-making made him the perfect fit for the Spurs system. And once he got going, there was no stopping him. By the time he retired, Tony Parker had built an incredible resume. He's a four-time NBA champion. Oh, and let's not forget his Finals MVP in 2007 when he absolutely torched the Cleveland Cavaliers in a sweep. Add 6 All-Star appearances to that, and you've got one of the best point guards of his generation. But what truly made Parker special was his ability to elevate the Spurs offense. He had this deadly mid-range jumper, a knack for finding open teammates, and a way of slicing through defenses that left bigger players looking helpless. He wasn't the flashiest guy on the court, but his efficiency and leadership made him a cornerstone of one of the most successful dynasties in NBA history. Now, if you thought Parker's journey was impressive, wait until you hear about the guy who was drafted 57th overall. Yes, second to last, and still ended up as one of the greatest international players ever. Let's talk about Manu Ginobili. He was taken 57th overall in the 1999 NBA draft. That's second to last. At the time, nobody really knew what to expect from him. He was just another international player with some potential. And to be honest, most teams didn't even think he'd make it to the NBA.
I sit at home, I watch the draft, and we pick people that I've never heard of. Sitting there, Emmanuel Ginobili. Who did we just pick?
But Ginobili didn't just make it, he changed the game. Known for his unique flair and fearless play, Manu became a critical part of the San Antonio Spurs dynasty. Over the course of his career, he won 4 NBA championships and even picked up a 6th Man of the Year award in 2008. Oh, and let's not forget his 2 All-Star appearances, proving that even as a bench player, he was among the league's elite. What made Manu special wasn't just his stats, it was his style. He brought a European flavor to the NBA, popularizing the Euro step and making it a go-to move for players across the league. He played with an intensity that few could match, throwing his body around on defense and attacking the basket with no fear. And let me remind you, this is a guy who was barely drafted, yet he went on to hit countless clutch shots, including some in the NBA Finals. He also had the versatility to come off the bench and dominate games, showing that you don't need to be a starter to be a superstar. Coming in at number 8 is a player who wasn't exactly overlooked, but definitely wasn't seen as the superstar he would become. Drafted 15th overall and traded on draft night, let's dive into the story of Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard was drafted 15th overall in 2011 by the Indiana Pacers, but he never played a game for them. On draft night, he was traded to the San Antonio Spurs, a move that would shape his career and the future of the NBA. At the time, Kawhi was considered a solid prospect, mostly known for his defensive potential, but concerns about his offensive game and shooting ability kept him from going higher in the draft. Fast forward a few years, and Kawhi Leonard didn't just meet expectations, he shattered them. Today, he's a 2-time NBA champion, a 2-time Finals MVP, and a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. His impact on both ends of the court has made him one of the most dominant two-way players in NBA history. What sets Kawhi apart is his ability to perform when it matters most. Take his iconic Game 7 buzzer beater against the Philadelphia 76ers in the 2019 playoffs, a shot that bounced on the rim 4 times before dropping. That moment cemented Kawhi's legacy as one of the most clutch players of his generation. But Kawhi's rise wasn't without hard work. When he joined the Spurs, he immediately began working with their coaching staff to refine his shooting and develop into a complete offensive player. By 2014, he was the Finals MVP, leading the Spurs to a dominant win over the Miami Heat's Big Three. And in 2019, he carried the Toronto Raptors to their first ever NBA championship, earning another Finals MVP in the process. Here's an interesting fact about Kawhi. Despite his incredible success, he's one of the most private and low-profile stars in NBA history. While most players are active on social media, Kawhi keeps a low profile and lets his game do the talking. Next up at number 7 is a player who also had to prove that being European didn't mean he couldn't dominate in the NBA. Let's talk about Dirk Nowitzki, the legendary power forward who changed the game forever. When Dirk Nowitzki was drafted a 9th overall in 1998, a lot of people didn't see what the Dallas Mavericks saw in him. Back then, European players weren't as common in the NBA, and there was this perception that they couldn't handle the physicality of the league. Dirk was no exception. He was tall, skinny, and unproven in the eyes of many scouts. But here's the thing about Dirk. He wasn't just another big man. He had a silky smooth jump shot and a basketball IQ that set him apart from the moment he stepped onto the court. It didn't take long for Dirk to show he was something special. By the time he retired, he was a 14-time All-Star, an NBA MVP in 2007, and most importantly, an NBA champion and Finals MVP in 2011. Dirk's crowning achievement came in 2011 when he led the Mavericks to an incredible upset over LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh's Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. His clutch performances throughout that playoff run cemented his legacy as one of the greatest players of all time. And let's not forget, Dirk played his entire 21-year career with the Mavericks, something almost unheard of in today's NBA. What really made Dirk special was his signature move, the one-legged fadeaway jumper. It was unguardable, and it became one of the most iconic shots in basketball history. Big men like Kevin Durant and Nikola Jokic have credited Dirk with inspiring their ability to stretch the floor and shoot from deep. Moving on to number 6, we have one of the most dominant and consistent players in NBA history. A player so reliable, he earned the nickname the Mailman because he always delivered. Let's talk about Karl Malone. Karl Malone was drafted 13th overall by the Utah Jazz in 1985. At the time, scouts knew he had potential, but few expected him to become the second all-time leading scorer in NBA history. While some teams doubted whether he could adapt to the faster pace of the NBA, the Jazz saw something special in his combination of size, strength, and work ethic. Malone quickly established himself as a force to be reckoned with. Standing 6'9" and weighing 250 pounds, he was a physical powerhouse who dominated the paint on both ends of the floor. Over his 19-year career, he averaged an incredible 25 points and 10 rebounds per game, showing unmatched consistency year after year. Let's talk about the accolades. Karl Malone was a 2-time NBA MVP, winning the award in 1997 and 1999, a 14-time All-Star, and an 11-time All-NBA first-team selection. He played in 1,476 regular season games, a testament to his durability and commitment to the game. But perhaps his most impressive feat, scoring 36,928 career points, placing him third on the NBA's all-time scoring list behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and LeBron James. While Malone never won a championship, he came heartbreakingly close multiple times, especially during his battles with Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls in the 1997 and 1998 NBA Finals. Despite those losses, his legacy as one of the greatest power forwards ever is secure. Coming in at number 5 is a player who changed the game of basketball forever. His three-point shooting revolutionized how the sport is played, making him one of the most influential players of all time. Let's talk about Stephen Curry. He was drafted 7th overall by the Golden State Warriors in the 2009 NBA Draft. At the time, there were serious doubts about whether Curry's game would translate to the NBA. Scouts worried he was too small, too frail, and not athletic enough to excel at the professional level. Some teams even questioned if his shooting style, which relied on deep threes and quick releases, would work against NBA defenses. Well, those doubts didn't age well. Fast forward, and Steph Curry is a 4-time NBA champion, a 2-time MVP, and the NBA's all-time leader in three-pointers made. He's widely regarded as the greatest shooter in basketball history. But what makes Curry's legacy even more special is how he changed the game. Before Steph, the three-point shot was an occasional weapon. After Steph, it became the cornerstone of modern basketball. One of his defining moments came during the 2015-16 season when Curry led the Warriors to an NBA record 73 wins. That year, he became the first unanimous MVP in league history. history, averaging 30 points per game while shooting an unbelievable 45% from 3. Night after night, he hit shots that made fans and even opponents shake their heads in disbelief. But Curry's journey wasn't without challenges. Early in his career, he struggled with recurring ankle injuries that almost derailed his potential. In fact, the Warriors nearly traded him to the Milwaukee Bucks in 2012 because of those concerns. Luckily for Golden State, they kept faith in him, and the rest is history. Now, from the greatest shooter of all time to a player who defied the odds with his athleticism and relentless drive, let's talk about the two-time MVP who dominated the league from Greece to global superstardom. Coming in at number 4 is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Greek Freak was drafted 15th overall by the Milwaukee Bucks in the 2013 NBA draft. At the time, he was a raw prospect, an 18-year-old from Greece who had only been playing basketball seriously for a few years. Scouts saw his potential, but had major concerns about his skinny frame and lack of polish. Many experts thought it would take years for him to make any kind of impact in the league, and in some ways, they were right. When Giannis entered the NBA, he was listed at 6'9" and just 190 pounds. But what they didn't know was that he had a work ethic like no other. Today, Giannis is a two-time MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, and most importantly, an NBA champion. His crowning moment came in 2021 when he led the Bucks to their first championship in 50 years, scoring 50 points in the decisive Game 6 of the NBA Finals. That performance will go down as one of the greatest in playoff history. Here's a fun fact about Giannis. When he first arrived in Milwaukee, he was so new to American culture that he used to send most of his paycheck back home to his family. In fact, one time he wired so much money that he didn't even have enough left for a cab to the arena and had to run to the game. Now, from one of the most physically dominant players in the game today to a player who defied expectations straight out of high school, let's talk about the Black Mamba himself, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was drafted 13th overall by the Charlotte Hornets in the 1996 NBA draft. Yes, you heard that right, the Hornets. But Kobe never played a single game for them because they traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers on draft night in one of the most lopsided deals in NBA history. At the time, teams were skeptical about drafting high school players. The league wasn't convinced that an 18-year-old kid, no matter how talented, could handle the physicality and mental grind of the NBA. But Kobe wasn't just any kid. He had a confidence and work ethic that set him apart from day one. Fast forward, and Kobe became one of the greatest players the game has ever seen. A 5-time NBA champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 18-time All-Star, and the 2008 League MVP, his resume speaks for itself. But more than the numbers, it was the way Kobe played the game that made him a legend. His tenacity, skill, and Mamba mentality inspired generations of players and fans. One of Kobe's most iconic moments came in 2006 when he scored 81 points in a single game against the Toronto Raptors.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
But Kobe's impact went beyond the court. He was a global ambassador for the game, helping to grow basketball worldwide. After retiring, he won an Oscar for his animated short film, Dear Basketball, and continued to mentor young players, sharing his wisdom and passion for the game. Now, from one of the most electrifying scorers the game has ever seen to a player who was selected during a Taco Bell commercial,
would come together. A delicious cheesy quesadilla wrapped around a beefy burrito.
Let's talk about the reigning Finals MVP and 2-time League MVP, Nikola Jokic. Joker was drafted 41st overall by the Denver Nuggets in the 2014 NBA draft. That's right, 41st. When Jokic entered the league, he didn't exactly look like a future MVP. He was seen as an unathletic big man with good passing skills, but questionable defense and conditioning. At the time, even Nuggets fans didn't know what to expect from the 6'11" Serbian center. But Jokic didn't take long to change that narrative. Fast forward to today, and Jokic is a 2-time NBA MVP, an NBA champion, and a Finals MVP. His ability to dominate games with his scoring, rebounding, and elite passing makes him one of the most versatile and unguardable players in the league. He's often referred to as the best passing big man of all time, and for good reason. Jokic sees the court like a point guard, regularly making passes that leave even his teammates in awe. One of Jokic's defining moments came in the 2023 1993 NBA Finals, where he led the Nuggets to their first championship in franchise history. In that series, he averaged 30 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists per game, cementing his legacy as one of the all-time greats. And now we've arrived at number 1, a player who redefined greatness and became the standard for excellence in the NBA. Let's talk about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was drafted 3rd overall in the 1984 NBA draft by the Chicago Bulls. That's right, 3rd. The Houston Rockets took Hakeem Olajuwon with the first pick, which made sense. And the Portland Trail Blazers famously selected Sam Bowie at number 2, prioritizing size over skill. And that left Jordan, the most iconic player in basketball history, to fall into the Bulls' lap. From the moment he stepped onto an NBA court, Jordan was unstoppable. Over his legendary career, he became a 6-time NBA champion, a 5-time MVP, a 10-time scoring champion, and a 14-time All-Star. But those numbers only scratch the surface of what Jordan meant to the game. One of his defining moments came in 1991, when he won his first NBA championship with the Bulls, defeating Magic Johnson's Los Angeles Lakers. That title was the start of an incredible dynasty, with Jordan leading the Bulls to 6 championships in 8 years and earning Finals MVP honors every single time. Jordan wasn't just about winning, he was a cultural icon. His competitiveness, work ethic, and clutch performances, like the shot against the Cleveland Cavaliers in 1989 or his flu game in the 1997 Finals, became the stuff of legend. Off the court, his Air Jordan brand changed the sneaker game forever and made him a global ambassador for basketball. And there you have it, the top 10 greatest non-first overall draft picks in NBA history. These players didn't need the top spot in the draft to cement their legacies. Of course, there are plenty of other incredible players who didn't make this list but still deserve recognition. Legends like John Stockton, the all-time leader in assists and steals, or Paul Pierce, who brought Boston another championship in 2008. And I can't forget Draymond Green, who was drafted 35th overall and became the defensive anchor for one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history. It just goes to show, the draft is only the beginning. It's what you do after that defines your legacy. So who's your favorite non-first overall pick? Did I leave someone off this list who you think deserves a spot? Let me know in the comments, because I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.